We literally had snow flurries today, but if the weather won't cooperate, we are bringing the spring vibes indoors with this card today. I couldn't resist pulling out everything that screams spring. Fresh colors, cute images, and cheerful elements that will instantly brighten your day. Hello everyone, I'm Revati and welcome to my crafty space. Today I was in the mood to create a fun Easter card and I also wanted to mix and match some of my favorite supplies by Cat Scrappiness. You'll see some adorable Easter bunnies, a beautiful cloud background, and one of my absolute favorites, the kissing booth die. There are so many ways you can mix and match the products you already have in your stash. They may not necessarily be for the exact occasion they were originally designed for, but it's such a fun way to add a little extra charm and creativity to your cards. So let's get started with these adorable Hippity Hoppity bunnies. Now, this set includes six cute bunnies along with a couple of those little floral images. There are coordinating dies available for this set. Now, we also have a coordinating sentiment stamp, which is the one that I'll be using for our card today. For the main focal point, I'll be using the big bunny with the glasses from this set, which is the Easter Fun stamp set. Now, this set is perfect for creating playful Easter cards. I would definitely recommend it if you are mass producing your Easter cards because they have some really cute and adorable images paired with fun sentiments, and it also comes with coordinating dies. For my background, I'll be using the stitched cloud backdrop die. This die is perfect for your A2 size card panels. It does not actually cut out those clouds, instead, it'll leave behind a beautiful stitched etching in the shape of clouds, which adds just the right amount of that subtle texture to the background. Last but not the least, I'll be using the Kissing Booth die, which I believe was released as part of the Valentine's collection. And I also have the add on pieces that came from the autumn release. So you see, I'm pulling together a variety of products from different times of the year, and we will be combining them to create a really cheerful Easter project. To save us a little time here, I went ahead and cut out all of my pieces. I also stamped, colored, and die cut the little bunnies. I did color in all the six bunnies from that Hippity Hoppity Bunnies clear stamp set. But well, for today's project, I won't be using them all. I can always save the extras for another project. I also stamped the sentiment that says Hoppy Easter and die cut it using the speech bubble die from the Easter Fun set, which is where that bunny comes from. Now, this is actually something I like doing in my free time or when I'm not filming a video. I love stamping a bunch of images and coloring them in with my alcohol markers. Over time, I have built up a little crafty stash of these colored images and I can store them right along with the stamp sets. That way, whenever I'm working on a new project, it's really easy to just pull them out and use them. I die cut our booth using the craft cardstock, and you'll see I have two pieces here. One is the base layer and the other goes on the top. It might be a little tricky to see here on camera, but the top layer actually has a little subtle wood grain etchings, which really give it a natural wood-like texture. I love how just a small detail like that can make the die cut piece look more realistic. Now, that's also the reason I chose craft cardstock. It complements the wood grain etching and gives the booth a more authentic, natural look. To take it a step further, I'm going to ink blend a couple of shades of browns on both of these layers. I'm not being super precise here. In fact, I like to do it in a loose, splotchy way. That way, it doesn't look too uniform or flat, and it really helps create that warm, rustic feel. Little touches like this can make a big difference in your card. It's also about adding depth and texture and that handcrafted charm that brings your projects to life. I added ink in small circular motions working on different sections of this piece. You'll notice that the inking is very subtle. We are definitely not aiming for perfection here. In fact, that imperfect, splotchy look is exactly what gives it a natural, rustic feel. Now for my inks, I'm using the Simon Says Stamp Positively Saturated inks in the shade Mocha and Woodsy. These are among the darkest brown shades that I have in my stash, and I feel they complement this craft cardstock beautifully, enhancing that warm wood-like look. Now once I finished with the front panel, I did the same thing with the back panel. This one is just plain cardstock without any of that wood grain etching, but I used the same small circular motions to add splotches of ink. Even without the etchings, it helps the back panel feel like it belongs with the rest of the piece and adds that extra touch of dimension. Now, if you want to take it a step further, you can gently swipe your ink pad over the cardstock. Doing this creates these subtle rugged lines that really mimic the natural patterns of wood. Don't worry about making them perfectly straight. This is about keeping a loose, relaxed hand to give the piece a more natural and authentic look. I went with a very casual approach, letting the lines flow however they wanted. It's these little touches like inking, splotching, swiping that really brings the die cut pieces to life and gives them that rustic handcrafted charm. Now it's time to assemble our main focal point. I decided to place the big bunny with his glasses inside the booth as if he was inviting the smaller bunnies to join him for Easter. Now you'll notice that the lower part of the bunny shows through the gaps in the booth. To make it look cleaner, I marked the areas with a pencil and carefully trimmed the bunny so he fits neatly behind the die cut gaps. Now, of course, you don't have to do this. Leaving the bunny as is works just fine, but I found it visually more appealing to keep the gaps clear. It's those small details and the little touches that elevate the overall design of your card and gives it a more polished and professional look. Let me know in the comments below what you would have done. Take a look at the final pictures and tell me, do you prefer having the bunny cut so it's not seen through the gaps, or would you be okay with a little part of the bunny showing through? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Now, to adhere the bunny, I used liquid glue directly onto the front panel. Then, to add dimension, I used foam tape on the back of both the booth and the bunny. Now, after removing the backing from the foam tape, I applied a little bit of liquid glue and mounted the pieces on the base layer of our booth. Now, the liquid glue gives a little bit of wiggle room, which is really helpful to make sure that everything lines up perfectly with before you finally commit everything down together. Now that our main focal point is almost done, let's start adding some color to our project. For that, I began with this little roof-like structure which I die cut from the Kissing Booth add-on die from pink cardstock. To give it a little extra dimension and contrast, I masked off the very edge around the roof and added a darker pink shade to that lace-like edge on this structure. Now, I used my positively saturated ink in the shade Watermelon, which I thought complemented the soft baby pink cardstock perfectly. The ink blending gives the roof just a subtle pop of color and adds depth, making it really stand out on the finished card. I'm using some post-it note to just mask off those edges, and you'll see we have a very clean, crisp line of that dark pink. I actually hadn't planned the roof earlier, so I had already adhered the bunny directly onto the craft cardstock. That meant I had to carefully lift the bunny's ear without tearing it so I could tuck the roof underneath the bunny's ear. Once the roof was in place, I secured it with some liquid glue and gently pressed the bunny's ear back in place. After that, I'll be adding some fun little accents to the booth before moving on to the background. Just a few details to make everything feel complete and playful. I then die cut this little banner using the Kissing Booth die and paired it with the tiny dotted accessory banner from the add-on die. I applied the same ink blending technique to my banners to keep everything cohesive with the rest of the booth. I glued both the pieces together using liquid glue and then placed the banner just below the bunny. I absolutely love how delicate and pretty this little banner is. I used my reverse tweezers to hold it in place while making sure it was perfectly aligned to the booth. Reverse tweezers definitely come in handy when you're working with small or delicate pieces like these. I would highly recommend keeping a pair in your crafty stash. They are one of my most used tools. Now, after all that was done, I added my sentiment right next to the bunny, and just like that, our main focal point is complete. Everything is coming together so beautifully, and it's ready for the next step, which is building the background. For my background, I'm using the stitched cloud background die. Now this one is perfect for your standard A2 size card bases, which measures 4 1/4 by 5.5 inches. But if you've been following me for a while, you'll know that I love leaving a small border around my card panels. So I'm placing a panel that measures 4 by 5 1/4 inches and securing it to the background die using a little bit of washi tape. I just love that subtle stitched detailing, it adds such a delicate finish. Now, since this is a spring card, I wanted to bring lots of color to the background as well. To create a soft, cheerful sky, I ink blended marine and cadet inks over almost three quarters of the panel. These are beautiful, soft shades of blues that I absolutely love for sky scenes. They are just perfect for springtime cards. To create a soft, grassy area, I blended in some greens in the shades Field and Perfection. The combination of sky and grass really sets a cheerful, fresh scene for our Easter bunnies and the booth, and it makes the whole card feel bright and lively. Now that our background is ready and our focal point is complete, it's time to bring the card together. Off camera, I also cut a little grassy hill. I think this dye comes from Spellbinders. And well, honestly, I absolutely love it because it creates those perfectly shaped hills for my card panels. Now, I started by adhering the booth to the background using liquid glue. You could definitely pop it up with some foam tape, but since we already have built dimension between those booth layers, liquid glue worked perfectly here. I did add some foam tape to the bottom where the grassy hill will go, just to match the height of the booth. I also tucked in smaller pieces of foam tape along the edges to make sure everything stays in place and flat and secure, especially important if you plan to mail the card. I cut off all that excess grassy hill and hanging off the edge, and this gives a very clean and sharp look. Now, after all of that was done, I added two of those colored bunnies below the booth, one holding a little carrot and the other one holding an Easter egg. Placing them here helps create a playful scene and adds more life to our cheerful Easter card. So now we have three bunnies on our card front. Aren't they absolutely adorable? Well, I mounted the finished panel onto an A2 size card base, and technically we could call this card done. But of course, it wouldn't be a spring card without a few finishing touches and sparkle. Now, at this point, when I took a closer look at the card, I realized that the Hoppy Easter sentiment bubble could use a little extra color. So I added just a hint of pink along the edges of that speech bubble using the leftover ink on my brush, just enough to give the bubble a soft, subtle touch of color. Next, I added some flowers from the Spring Fling sprinkle mix on the grassy border. And to really make everything pop, I finished off the card with a touch of sparkle using my glitter brush pen. And just like that, our cheerful, playful Easter card is complete. We mixed and matched supplies from different releases, added fun inking techniques, and built a playful scene with our beautiful bunnies and the kissing boot dies. I hope this project inspired you to pull out your stamps and dies, try combining older products in new ways, and have fun creating your own spring scenes. If you enjoyed watching today's video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more card making tutorials, and leave a comment below letting me know how you would have arranged your bunnies or any tips you have for adding finishing touches to the projects. All the supplies that I used to create this card will be listed down in the description box below. Please know that all of those links are affiliate links, which means that if you shop using one of my links, I'll get a small commission at no cost to you guys. Thank you again for joining me today. Until next time, stay safe.